Okay, everybody, this is Monicah Kariuki, and you're on Echo FM radio and Echo FM Facebook. Today, I am so ecstatic. I have the one and only Honorable Millie Odhiambo. Honorable, welcome to Diaspora Show.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely, absolutely. We look forward to having this conversation with you. Honorable Millie Odhiambo is a lawyer by profession, a civil rights advocate, and a member of parliament representing North Suba constituency. Honorable Millie, you are the most outspoken woman leader and a firebrand, an army by yourself. We need to learn today from you on how you broke the glass ceiling to become such a force to reckon with, despite growing competing with men who don't necessarily see women as equal. So to get us started, Honorable, can you briefly tell us your journey, how you got to where you are today?
Thank you, Monica. It would be difficult to give my journey in a few minutes or a few hours, but I'll try and sum it up.
Sure.
That I was raised in a partly political family. I said partly because my father was a politician, and he was a member of the regional assembly, which would be the equivalent of an MCA now, but they were bigger units. And he was vying for the Beta parliamentary seat when he died in a boating accident.
Okay.
I was very young then, probably in class 1. So I had a little glimpse about politics from him. And after that, I also witnessed an amazing woman, Honorable Phoebe Asisio, who vied and fell that then political giant, Honorable Okiki Amayo, when the state was like a deity, and that was the Secretary General of the party. So I got intrigued and thought about getting into politics when I was 12 years. But because I grew up in a very strong Christian background, my mother was very strongly Christian, who raised us in very strong Christian ethics. We presumed that then politics is not for Christians, so I decided to shelve it. But then it revisited. I worked in the civil society movement, and we often had coincidence of agenda with the political class. But we also often clashed because of the kind of abandon us halfway in our political agenda. Like when we were pushing for the comprehensive constitutional reforms, and then the state settled for inter-parties parliamentary group meeting, which came up with just some few amendments to the constitution.
Right.
But then after that, my brother asked me to support Honorable Odhiambo,
okay,
who was the member of parliament of Lita, and I reluctantly joined in supporting him. And through getting in through the deep end, I learned politics as his campaign manager. And I thereafter, after supporting his campaign for re-election for, I think, the third term, I then joined the party, not officially, but because there was a lot of agitation then for change, and our party leader looked like he was set to win, but the party primaries had gone back. So I came up with a presidential campaign team, a parallel presidential campaign team to the main one.
Right.
And we mobilized resources. And so that's how I kind of joined in politics in a nutshell.
Okay. All right. Okay. So today we thought to have you because we have seen a lot of things that are impressive to women, and even the young women that are growing. And there are so many challenges as women that we go through. And so we wanted to hear from somebody that we know is actually very successful, even on, taking on bullies. So Honorable, if I can ask you, when you embark on a journey to achieve great heights like you have, friends tend not to support you. Was that your experience?
I don't know, I didn't get your last question.
Okay, so I'm saying when you embark on a journey, you know, to become an MP, to become somebody great in the community, sometimes, you know, you will find that, you know, it's people that you know, it's people that, you know, you've always counted on, you know, that probably don't even want to support you on that. Did you experience that?
Well, I would say that I was lucky from a family front. I got a lot of support. What surprised me was the people that I expected their support from the political angle. For instance, the incumbent then that had actually supported did not support my candidature.
Right.
So that kind of surprised me. And at some point it even distressed me. But then I learned in politics, like I think Governor Amanda was saying, which is actually in my, coincidentally, in my second book, that politics, you don't put things in relation to politics to heart. You actually put them on your head or in your mind and expand them when necessary, because then you get very upset. The political relationships you make are not like your ordinary friendships. So you don't expect much from that kind of relationship. You may be lucky to find one or two people that you then forge friendships with, but it's not your normal friendship.
Right.
It's more of a friendship for a lot of politicians. It's more of a friendship of convenience, which is very difficult for women to deal with, because, you know, women, we are nurtured to forge real friendships, to forge lasting friendships. But for in the political arena, it's an issue of interest. So that was something that I found very difficult dealing with for a long time. That people don't stick very true to principle, people don't stick very true to, you know, values. People are more driven by personal interest. But you learn, which is a very difficult balancing act, but I had to learn to, on the one hand, make sure that I stay true to my convictions and my principles, while at the same time not taking to heart the things that, you know, the standards that are by other people that do not please me.
Right. Okay. All right. So we have seen you, you know, sometimes respond to bullies, you know, and like you put it, you know, so you will respond in a pigly way, and you can also respond intellectually. So when people say hurtful things, having a thick skin does not mean that these things don't get to you, does not mean that these things don't hurt you. But how do you wake up the next morning and still do what you do and, you know, tackle the bullies?
Well, Monica, actually, interestingly, some of those things originally hurt me. You know, like about 6-7 years ago. Yeah. But then that was when I actually thought that politics was about, you know, people who made sense. That it was about people who had values. That it's about people who are committed to, you know, principles. But then when I discovered that we are dealing with a lot of pigly people, then I actually closeted people. I've closeted them, and the intellectuals I deal with intellectually, and pigly people I deal with pigly. But one of the things that has helped me, why some of the things that they even say are not very hurtful, is because I have a very positive self-concept. That I feel like, I'll give you an example. A lot of women don't find it easy talking about things I talk about. Most women don't find it easy talking about the fact that they are childless. Right. Because I think it's, I can tell you for a fact it does not, I don't even sleep over that. I don't even pause over that. Yeah. Because I believe I am complete as I am, with or without a child. And I am also happy that I was actually raised by a woman who was fairly, my mom was very interesting. In some issues, she was fairly conservative as a Christian. But then on issues of rights, she was fairly, you know, progressive. Yeah. And I remember as early as, you know, even before we got married, and she would tell us, my kids, if it doesn't work, come back home. You don't need to stay in a marriage that doesn't work.
Yeah.
When most mothers will tend to persevere.
Yes.
So my mother was fairly liberal to that sense. And because of that, I grew up with a very positive and balanced self-esteem. And you need tractors to pull my esteem down. And so I actually teach and train women, especially young women, that before you get into politics, you must have a very positive self-concept. You must have a very positive ego. You must have a very good esteem, so that anything that people tell you does not get to you, because I don't need their permission. You only hurt me with my permission, and they don't have my permission to hurt me.
Yeah. Wow. That's powerful. That's really, really powerful. So, Honorable, if I can ask you, women tend to, we are emotional beings, right? So sometimes we tend to start groups, for example, like maybe WhatsApp groups, and we start these groups with a good intention, with an intention to support one another. But in some cases, some of these groups, they will end up, having, the backbiting, jealousy, and not, women pulling one another up, So we keep on saying and talking about women empowering one another. And I would use you as an example and say, you wouldn't have been elected an MP if you would have been elected by men only. Women had to elect you too. And I think a hero is that person that does not necessarily come when another woman is down, but it's a hero is that woman that also pushes another woman up, even though the other woman, or regardless if the other woman is going to be better than them. So how do you advise women to, shun from, the jealousy and, and the competition and things like that, and instead of having all those challenges, so that they don't have the, them versus us, so that they can work together and, and bridge the gap of leadership? You're frozen. Honorable? She's frozen. It's on her end. I'm sorry, guys. It's on Honorable's end. She had told me though that if her computer doesn't work, she will log in on her phone. So I think that's what happened. She had told me when we started this. So don't worry, she will be back. I am so sorry, guys, and I thank you so much for tuning in. I'm gonna go get Honorable here back in a minute. Just give him just a second. Okay, so okay, I think she's coming back. Can you admit her? It's right here. We lost Honorable. I'm sorry, guys. She had told me that this was gonna happen, so we knew that this was gonna happen. Please go right here. Right here. Go back. Left. Left. One more. Right there. Okay, we are trying. Let me call her, guys. I am so sorry. Let me text her. Oh my goodness, this is her internet, I think. Millie Zapotea, she will get her back. She's coming. Yeah, guys, I know she's frozen. Her screen is frozen. And she had told me that if it happens, that she will try to log in from her phone. She had told me this before we started. So I see she's online. Okay, she's offline. Let me call her. Okay, so Honorable just sent a message. She says that hi, moved to phone, bad weather. She had told me that it's raining in Kenya, so that could be why. So she's saying she's moving to the phone. Like I said, we had discussed it earlier, and she told me that this could happen. So let's just try to get her back. I am so sorry. Mother Nature. We'll just wait for her to come. We're waiting for her. I wish I could put music for them as we wait. Thank you for being patient, you guys. Thank you. She's trying to log in. She's trying to get back. We're trying to get her back. Thank you, Lucy Tifase, Lillian, Washo. That dress is good. Thank you, Washo. The questions are on. Thank you, Winnie. Lois, we command the technical issues. Yes, in Jesus' name. Amen, Lois. Every empowered woman needs to hear the answers to these questions. Oh, thank you, Lillian. And Kagwe Muhaki, I hope she got here. Ati tunaelewa hali ya Kenya. We're here. Anyway, Millie can start there. Right from communication and electricity problem. Yes, Washo. At least the good. It's not you, Briggs. It's Washo. Your son is my technical guy here. It's her. Where she is, there's rain, so she said she was going to see if she's back. I see you, Dorothy. Susan. Chikuni Wanjiko, Lucy, thank you. Millicent, oh, thank you for patiently waiting. Robert Wera, this is kind of for women, but you can take notes. Yes, it's raining a lot. Yeah, Millicent, it's raining a lot. At least the good thing is that she had told me. It shows like there's two people here, Briggs. Can you go back there? And also too, she when she joined with her computer, she told me that it would be, because I had asked her to join with her phone, she said it might be difficult. So we'll see. Hopefully we don't have to reschedule, because I was on a roll here. And you know what? I have to tell you, we'll just wait for her. She hasn't texted me if she's back. I'm texting her. I see she's online. Because earlier when we started, I asked her to join with her phone, and she said, "Oh, that's going to be complicated." So I think that's what's happening. So she's, I don't think that she has Zoom on her phone. That could be, but I just texted her. I see she is online, so I just texted her. Oh, I am so sorry, you guys. She's not back. We'll just give her a minute. Okay, there she is. Right here? Yeah, admit, yes. Guys, my mic can pick up you guys talking. It's my beauticians. My beauticians are over here talking. Did you admit her? Okay. There we go. Okay. All right, guys, we got her back.
Sorry, we are having a very bad weather, so I'm
yes.
using an alternative.
Yeah, I told people we are having a bad weather, so.
So, I think we're good to go.
Yes. Now we are good to go. Okay, guys, we have Honorable back, and these ladies were so patient. I have to tell you, they kept typing there. No, we're still waiting for her. So they still want to hear you. Okay. So anyway, I don't know if you had my question earlier, but this was my question. I said that women tend to start many groups with good intentions, but we end up tearing one another down due to, sometimes jealousy, competition, backbiting. How can you advise women as we face these challenges to build each other instead, so we can overcome, the us versus them?
Okay, what I can say is that there's always a very high expectation placed on women. Mm-hmm. Nobody expects men to get along with men or not to backbite men. Mm-hmm. In my work in politics, I found that men talk the most and talk evil about each other, but then it's not called gossip. It's called positive criticism, and positive feedback, when they actually just talking. So what I can say is that women are not homogeneous, and we don't react to the same manner the way plants react to light, I think, the process of photosynthesis. So I think it's okay if we don't necessarily support each other, even though it would be very nice if we did, because I was actually powered by rural women. They're the ones who gave me a lot of support. But even if another woman doesn't support a fellow woman, I have learned to, accept it as normal. But I would want to encourage that,
She's frozen again. It's okay, Briggs. It's not our end. It's the rain in Kenya. She's frozen again, guys. Oh, Lord. Lois, you need to pray. Lois, please pray for this rain to stop. Let me tell her she's frozen. What happened? We lost her again. Okay, she's back. Admit her.
Hello.
Okay. Okay, we are back. And you're frozen again. I cannot hear you. I didn't hear what you said because it's still freezing.
Yeah.
Honorable, can you hear me? How about we just do? Yeah, this is not. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. So guys, let me hear from you guys, because there's so much technical issue because of the rain in Kenya. She disappeared again, right? Yeah, she disappeared again. So do you guys want me to bring her another day? What do you guys want? Because we can't stop the rain in Kenya. Washo? Okay, there she is. Yes. Unfortunately. Okay.
You got a little rain and everything gets messed up.
Yes, yeah. So we had you.
Raining in Nairobi, so the internet is stable.
Yeah.
I'm using all systems, but it's not working.
Okay, all right. Okay, so hopefully we can get through this. I have Evangelist Millie Nyangon. She's praying for this rain to end. Millicent, please keep on praying. By the way, I have to tell you, Evangelist Millie Nyangon, she challenged me on Facebook and she told me to bring you on. And so I didn't tell her that I was seeking to bring you. And so when I just brought you, it was a bombshell. I have to say that. So my next question, so we've learned as women that we have to accept we are probably never going to support one another, but we just have, it would be nice if we supported one another, but we're never going to support one another. So thank you for letting us know that that's just how it is. So in politics, especially in Kenya, it is male dominated, more so because African society has not yet accepted gender equality. How have you managed to stay on course and stand up to the bullies and non-believers?
Well, one of the ways I've done that is to be real about our situation. Mm-hmm. And one of the, I keep telling women, that not all women are, not all feminists are women.
Yeah.
You will find women that support the women agenda, and you will find women support the women agenda. Factors, including privilege, including socialization, including people who think it is an elitist agenda, which it's. But then you'll also find the men who support the women agenda. So part of one of the reasons or what makes me stay focused is to know why I came into Parliament, and I did not come into Parliament with a selfish agenda, if you may. I came in originally, I was nominated into Parliament to represent special interests. So I've remained true to that even when I am elected. I focus on what I was working on before I joined Parliament. And so even if you actually see my discussions in Parliament, whether we are talking about an engineer's bill, I will give it agenda lens. Whether I'm talking about, a merchant shipping bill, I will look at it with agenda lens and see how that works for us. Why? Because I came in with a very clear agenda, with a clear vision. with my vision intact. So part of the reason is that I have a very intact vision. But then also, as I've told you, why our managing bullies is that I have a very good, self-concept.
Yeah.
I have a good esteem, and it's difficult really to try and pull me down with things that really are supposed to touch on your ego and on who you are. I'm very self-aware, and I don't need anybody to define for me who I am, because I know who I am.
Right.
And that's why I understand really for women, and my focus on personal development for women when I undertake the training is on self-awareness. Because when you are aware about who you are,
right,
and you are sure about your capabilities, then you don't need any excuse. But then, you don't need any permission from anybody to justify for you who you are. But then another thing that works for me is being generally knowledgeable. Because if you are generally knowledgeable, then
right,
you don't get to be intimidated.
right.
But when you are not generally knowledgeable, then it becomes very easy to intimidate you. Because then when you don't walk in when you are self-confident and self-assured. But because I'm able to go toe-to-toe with any man on any issue or on any topic.
Yeah.
So I encourage, because a lot of us women, we are socialized, not more general knowledge. We are socialized a lot on fashion. We are socialized a lot on good looks. We are socialized a lot on, home care. And, we are socialized a lot on taking care of kids, all of which are good, but we must go beyond that. I must know how to take care of, I must be a good homemaker, but I must be a good mother, I must be a good aunt and grandmother, but I must also be a good leader who knows everything, that knows something about agriculture, about engineering, about, every facet of life. You need to have general information so that you are not intimidated by men who sound like they have a lot of information. And sometimes you actually notice they only Google for 5 minutes and then they sound like they're so clever when they are not. So once you discover their tricks, also follow their methods.
Okay, knowledge is power. So earlier you talked about being childless, so let me talk about this issue. You have publicly mentioned and supported women that haven't been blessed with a child. Not having a child is not a disability. However, sometimes, our society does not, accept that woman, or even some women are ridiculed. I don't know if you know, there's a woman in Ukambani, she had both of her arms cut off by her husband. And mostly because we don't understand that infertility is not just about a woman, infertility can also be a man. So what do you say to a couple that probably has everybody keep on asking them, when are you having a child, when are you having a child? And what do you tell that person that keep asking these insensitive questions?
Maybe I can start with the ones who ask insensitive questions. That the first thing you need to know that in the modern world, there are actually women who make a choice that they don't want children. So when you ask them, when are you expecting a child, they were not going to give birth for you. They were going to give birth for themselves.
Absolutely.
So really don't be asking such questions in this modern time. It's like I always tell people when I go to the US, I don't ask people, what do you do? Because I know there are many challenges and people have to get by somehow. So I don't ask you what you do. If you feel free to tell me what you do, that's fine. But I'll not go out of my way to ask you what you do, because I know people struggle and people have to get by. The same thing, you don't ask in Kenya anymore what people do, because sometimes it's a struggle. So unless somebody volunteers. In the same manner, I don't ask about whether somebody, don't ask when, especially after people are married, that, oh, now we are waiting for a child. They didn't ask you, or they didn't tell you they're going to have children. That's one. But secondly, when you ask that, there could be people who are struggling to have children and are not succeeding. So you are putting an undue pressure on them. And such comments sometimes actually draw people to very difficult proportions, like Sometimes you've seen women who steal babies. You know, sometimes women, you know, since I started this process, I've actually had testimonies of a lot of women. A very young woman in her 30s was divorced because she couldn't have babies, and I'm like, really? Only in your 30s being divorced because you don't have a baby? But I think we need to also learn that we're in a modern world.
Yeah.
That either way, even if you don't have a child, so what? It's neither here nor there. It doesn't define who you are. So I encourage people that, especially when we put a lot of pressure on what society says, it's good when we coexist in society, but at the end of the day, I eat in my house. I don't eat in a place called society.
Right.
I look for for food for myself. I survive on my own. The society doesn't give nothing. I don't go to town in the morning, going to a place called society that will give me food, so that if I don't conform, then I'll stay hungry. No. We need to learn that times have changed, and we must change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as a woman leader, what can the government do to make reproductive health available and affordable for couples, or even for that woman that wants to have a child?
First, the first thing is we need to have a legal framework, which you don't already have. I brought 2 bills, and Honorable Susan Kihika has also brought one similar to one of my bills. I brought the Assisted Reproduction Technologies bill that would then help women who can't have children. Currently in Kenya, if you want to have a child through assisted reproduction, it will cost you anything upward of $1 million shillings, which most rural women don't get.
Yes.
So I was hoping that with the passage of the bill, that the counties could then, provide for assisted reproduction at the county level, that we can give it a sort of focus that we have given COVID-19, that we know that is a challenge that a lot of women and men face, and that the government needs to provide for that. But I've also brought a bill on reproductive health care. And unfortunately, a lot of people think that reproductive health care is just about abortion. It's not just about abortion.
Right.
It's about the entire spectrum of being a man or a woman from conception to death. It's about men struggling with erectile dysfunction. It's about women in their 50s struggling with the hot flashes and not knowing what to do. It's about couples struggling to, with all manner of reproductive issues that nobody wants to deal with or talk about. So that's one of the things that the reproductive health care bill deals with. But I've separated the assisted reproduction from it because of the controversy around reproductive health care, so that in case we have a hit or snag with the reproductive health care, then the component of assisted reproduction at least goes through on a bill of its own. Because it's very, very serious issues. When I brought it in the last parliament, a lot of the male MPs came and told me that they have actually had their children through assisted reproduction. But unfortunately, a lot of people think it's just about women. So to answer you, I've answered you in a long way that what we need first is to ensure that there's a legal framework so that budget can then follow the law. Because normally the budget follows the law.
Okay, so if these bills were to pass, does that mean that NHIF would then cover reproductive health?
Well, that's what we are trying to see if it can be covered. Okay. But that would depend on then what members of parliament we agree with. If they agree that it's covered under NHIF, that would be good.
Awesome.
But as it is now, we have women dealing with so many issues. Part of the reasons that I don't have a child is because I have fibroids for a long time. And it took some of the best hospitals, it took them years to even diagnose that I had fibroids, which is a very simple, and very common thing, that a medical condition that affects a lot of African women. And I had to travel when I was in New York University, when I was told that I have fibroids. When all this while, all I was being that I have some mass, some black mass, and I was misdiagnosed a lot of time, that every time you go to hospital as a woman with a gynecological issue, they just presume you have aborted or, you know, or you have a sexually transmitted infection. And that was my journey, because when I was younger, every time I had my menses, I had to be admitted because they were very severe. I used to have dysmenorrhea. So they used to be very severe, very heavy, and I used to lose a lot of blood. So every time I was admitted, every time I would be told you have either aborted or you must be having a sexually transmitted infection. So even just that kind of bias in the way we deal with over very simple reproductive issues must stop. And that's part of the reason I brought this law, because most women are not brave enough to even talk about natural processes because of shaming of our reproductive roles.
So while you're you know, seeking to have these bills passed, you know, now that you have talked about being misdiagnosed, we see a lot of cases of misdiagnosis in Kenya. And I'm sorry, I'm probably digressing or I'm taking you off the topic here, but it's just because you mentioned it. But we see a lot of misdiagnosis in Kenya. Is there a due process to probably sue a doctor that misdiagnosed? Because when they misdiagnose, they probably even, you know, sometimes we've seen they've done surgery on the wrong patient, and you know, that's a lifetime, you know, that causes another woman not to have a child for something that, you know, is simple, that could have been fixed a long time ago. Is there a process to sue a doctor in Kenya?
Yes, there is. I'd actually thought about suing in the instance when I was misdiagnosed. In one of the instances, because it wasn't even once, one of the times I went to one of the bigger hospitals, they actually misdiagnosed me to have a sexually transmitted infection. Wow. And I went to my office because I was admitted. So upon discharge, I went back to my office and I carried this discharge sheet because it was needed. And I was going all over. Everybody was asking me, oh, I'm so sorry you are sick. I said, oh, no, I'm better, but I'm showing everybody this, that I had this sexually transmitted infection, because I didn't know, and I wasn't admitted for a sexually transmitted infection. So when somebody who was a bit more knowledgeable called me aside and said, you know what you're going around with? You are telling people that you have a sexually transmitted infection. So I went back to the doctor and I told him, how can you, can I get the basis of your diagnosis? Under what circumstances did I come up with a sexually transmitted infection? Then his response is that because most women who come here present sexually transmitted infection. And I'm like, I'm not even sexually active. Why are you diagnosing me with a sexually transmitted infection? And then when I challenged him, he said the only way they're allowed legally is to put a question mark. It's not even to blot it out. So that is part of the reason that I'm bringing this bill, that when you misdiagnose, you must blot the record. You cannot put a question mark when the fault is yours, because you've made a wrong medical diagnosis that actually looks bad on me because of your own, negligence. But you are allowed by law. But I actually decided for myself then that I was going to push for legislative reform. I didn't think then that I was going to be in Parliament, but I thought that I was going to push for legislative reform from the outside to make sure that we hold doctors accountable very specifically on that, especially for women. But even as it stands now, you can't sue a doctor where there is actually misdiagnosis that actually even impacts negatively or causes death or harm. That is allowed in law. I guess what's happening is that a lot of people, kind of find it sort of like what happened to me. I was like, it's such a tedious process. You want to go to court a long time because cases take a long time. So sometimes you assess and you're like, okay, let me pursue other options. Like for me in this instance, I chose to pursue legislative reform.
Okay. Well, we are glad to have you there because, what you do is going to change a lot of other women's lives. So let's talk about our culture. we have gotten from a woman not being allowed to work, you know, and her place used to be in the kitchen. That's what, you know, we knew, to modern working woman. However, we are still in the bondage of culture where a woman is still supposed to submit, you know, to their husbands or their men. Is there conflict between traditional role of a woman and modern reality? For example, even if I was like in a, you know, in a matatu and I said, you know, a man insults me and I insult them back, all the men around there are probably going to beat me because that's just the culture. But is there, are we confused about our tradition and the modern?
Well, I could say that we are at a crossroads as a country, that the world has progressed, but there are people who still want to hang on to the cultural aspects. But what I'm glad is that a lot of the women are, you know, getting their spaces, and people are speaking out against harmful cultural traditions. Not all culture is wrong.
Yes.
There are very many positive cultural practices. I can tell you that having worked in the, you know, in this sector for a very long time, that I discovered that actually there is also corrupted culture. That there was culture that was a lot of culture was actually protecting of women. But, you know, men usually when they see something is profitable, then they take it up. Most men will tell you that culturally they will not cook. But when cooking becomes profitable, they give it a fancy name like chef.
Yes.
And then they take it over from the women. And if you look at, for instance, in the Luo Nyanza, most of the clans were named after women. And so you'll find places like Kanyadoto, Kanyaluo,
yes.
Which means the home of the woman.
Okay.
Most of the clans actually named after women, just like the Mumbi of the Kikuyu.
Yes.
But then the Kikuyu, because the women were more assertive, I think, earlier, they've not lost, they didn't lose that. But amongst the Luo, we kind of lost that. When indeed culture actually is protective of women. And I was even told that even in land ownership, the land was more of a woman's thing than it was a man. It's the woman who had the land, so most of the people would refer to the land or the farm of this woman, much less the farm of this man. But when men have seen, especially with capitalism, and with the profits that come therewith, then everything that is profitable has been changed. So I think the challenge for us as women is sometimes to use the same culture that is being used against us.
Yes.
To push our own agenda. I'll give you another example that when I was vying for the elective position for the first time, one of the constructs that was being used against me was that I'm a Migogo. Migogo is a woman that is married, with a daughter that is married. And so they were saying, you know, in our culture, Amigogo cannot rule. It's only either a wife or a son, because you are a stranger, because you are a patriarchal society. But I told him the same culture says when Amigogo comes home,
yes,
she's allowed to go to the granary. She's allowed to go to the granary,
yes,
and pick whatever she wants. And so I told them, for me, I went to the granary, and I picked what I wanted, which was leadership.
Yes.
So you can actually use the same culture to challenge some of the norms that people are talking about, because people have deconstructed some of the cultural norms.
I'm glad you said, you know, that culture actually supports women, which it does, even the Kikuyu culture does. But do you think that culture is a contributing factor to domestic violence?
Well, for some, yes.
Okay.
In some instances, yes, especially because of the inferior status that a lot of culture seem to place on women. But I think a lot of it has to do with modernism, because in the traditional culture, you will find, because I've done a lot of research around this issue, you find a lot of things, you find a lot of rules that were very protective of women.
Yes.
like a woman, some of the culture, they said if you try to beat your wife, and she ran to your mother, the mother-in-law's place, you don't touch her. But now, what do you see? People follow women to their whatever mother-in-law's place. You're not supposed to lay your hand on a woman when she's given birth. And there were so many other rules that guarded against you domestic violence. Elders would be called down, the debate around it. So there are a lot of modern things that are being also pushed as cultural. But either way, what I would say that yes, where the culture allowed for certain practices, like for instance, for me, I don't discourage others because I know a lot of women really love if dad is paid for them. I refuse because I say it doesn't make sense to me. I've never understood why. So because of that, I refuse to have dowry paid for me. And because you hear a lot of men saying that if you pay dowry for this woman, then she becomes your property.
You own her, yes.
You can do anything. But beyond that, I think also women just needs to be more assertive, respectfully assertive in marriage.
That's the word.
Maybe I can just say that, speaking of that, I was very saddened to see a recent case that was of this Ghanaian lady who was killed by the husband.
Yes.
That was really sad. And part of it is the way we are told we must submit, you need to take care. And this lady was actually being asked by the father to leave.
Yes.
So sometimes we also need to go beyond, because where your father is supporting, because that should be the cultural interest. And I tell women that I don't encourage divorce, but when you are in a violent union,
exactly.
Leave and sort out from a distance. Because the body has no spare parts.
Absolutely. The body has no spare parts. So I want to ask you something that this conversation, I've had this conversation with a lot of my friends in Kenya. And, when I look into it, I think that to some extent, maybe women have accepted to take a less, like we are compromising, too much. So what I want to ask you is about, I don't know if you've ever heard, but women have come up with mpango wa kando, And so this mpango wa kando, some wives have also accepted the fact that, their men will go out there anyway. Their husbands will go out there anyway. So they settle for the other woman being there. And the mpango wa kando person settles for, there is a wife, I'm not going to call him at this hour because he's, at home with his wife, but I'm going to call him tomorrow or whatever. So knowing very well that you're breaking another woman's home, but you still continue with it because maybe this man is giving you money, to continue living. You probably have children out of wedlock, financial support. But my question is, in our society, is morality and sexuality in conflict?
Wow, that's a tough one. Whether morality and sexuality are in conflict. What I can say, and I've said it earlier on, is that we are actually at a crossroads. We are trying to embrace modernity, while at the same time holding on to cultural norms. On the one hand, I come forth as this educated, liberated woman, successful with a job.
Yes.
But I'm okay being a second wife. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So by being a second wife, I'm okay. It means I'm happy with the cultural, or being a mpango wa kando.
Yes.
What I can say is that a lot of things have to do with personal choices. Everybody can choose to be that mpango wa kando, but the reality is that when you are, it does compromise your own negotiating capability. Because if you are in a relationship with somebody, why should you be hidden? Why should you be, out of sight? Why should they compromise? Now in Kenya, customary marriages is actually recognized, so they can actually be given a certificate. It was always there, but we have options. You can actually go for a civil marriage, and a civil marriage is one man, one wife.
Yes.
And then there's customary marriage, which is one man and even up to 100 women, if you want, or more. And then you have the Islamic marriage, which is up to 4 women, and the Hindu marriage, which is one man, one wife. And then cohabitation, which is not very guaranteed, or which is what is called law marriage. So I would want to encourage women that even when you're in a relationship with a man, negotiate with, so that you choose that you want to be in a customary marriage with him. If the wife was married in church, then he has to divorce her and remarry her customarily, so that you are also married. Because the law would then require that he divorces the wife under the civil marriage, and then remarry under customary marriage, so that he can then marry other wives. But otherwise, if you are hidden and you are not properly married under any of the systems of the law, even up to yesterday, I think there was a ruling by Justice Kanyi that you will be considered a nurse, that you are a nurse, a nurse for the man.
Wow.
Like you are a nurse, not a wife.
Right.
So why would somebody want to
be a nurse
when you're in a relationship?
Yes, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, to be a nurse.
Yeah. So that then brings me to my other question. The fact that there are women out there, like the ones that are in the Mpango wa Kando, whether they're being hidden or not, but they do have children. Some of them have children with these men, and so I wonder if you could tell us about the Article 53 that you pushed for.
Yes. Yes, what that provides is that children born out of wedlock are now protected under the law. So even when you are a Mpango wa Kando, then your children who are born out of wedlock are considered the children of this man. I know a lot of women may not be happy with that, but being both a women's rights activist and a child rights activist, and as a child rights activist, my primary concern is the interest of the child, the best interest of the child. And the best interest of a child who is born out of wedlock is that this child is not negotiated under what circumstances they are born. So if my husband, for instance, comes tomorrow and says, I have a child with this woman, by law, that is his child.
Yeah.
And he will be obligated to take care. The only thing is you as the woman, you are not the wife. And the issue of inheritance come into play, you cannot inherit, but the children will inherit together with the other children.
Okay. Yes. So even though the first wife or the legally married wife was married in church, so if you're Mpango wa Kando and have children with this man, your children can still inherit?
Yes, because then it's not about the woman, it's about children.
The children.
And the reason is that when the law looks at the best interest of the child, and the child has a right to both a mother and a father. It's sort of automatic the way in America, so long as you have a child with a person, then you must give child support.
Yeah.
So the same thing is the notion. People, a lot of what they were doing is we're having children all over, and then they don't want to take responsibility for the children. So what we encourage is, if you don't want more children, then zip up, use a condom.
What about the men that are leaving but are not taking or are not financially responsible for these children? Is there child support in Kenya, or how do women go about getting support, financial support from these men? Some of the men are able to actually financially support these children, but they just don't do it.
Well, because maybe the women are ignorant, because then if you go to court, the man will be compelled to take responsibility. And I founded an organization called the Cradle, the Children Foundation. And for years, we took many men to court, both high and mighty, including members of parliament, media personalities, who are refusing to take care of their children. And a lot of the cases we settled, out of court. Others we went up to court. We had a case where even a man who made his house girl pregnant, was compelled to take care of her from the moment when the child was still in utero, before the child was born. He had to take care of her hospital visit. So yes, those people, the men who have children with other women, by law are obligated, whether or not she's your wife, to take care of that child. That's what a lot of women don't know. You can also go to FIDA. FIDA does a lot of those cases. I represented a lot of women in those cases. The only thing is that you, as the woman, are not entitled to anything, but the child or the children are entitled. But you as a woman is not entitled to anything.
Okay.
So what I normally advise people who are in relationships where you think probably that your husband is having several children outside and you want to protect your own children, then make sure that whatever you make that you want for your child is listed in the name of your child. Because otherwise, should your husband die, his property will be shared between all of your between you, your children, and the children of the other one. I mean, the other girlfriends, not wife.
Right. Okay. So
and that's why you see a lot of times when some prominent personalities die in Kenya, then all these people pop up with kids.
Yeah. So I think most of the time women are intimidated by a man, that is powerful, has a lot of money, because I think most women have, they assume that it's going to cost them money to take this man to court anyway. And so they just know if it's going to cost them money, they are not going to pursue it because they don't have the money to start with. I think so.
That's why you have organizations like FIDA and the Credo and the Cruz who offer free legal services to indigent persons.
Okay.
So I think when, it's been a while, but when I was in the civil society, receiving upward of 100, 200 such cases in a day.
Okay.
So they are very, very busy with such cases.
So I do want to mention to you some of these groups, and then I'll tell you why I'm mentioning. So there's a group called CASP. I forget the what that stands for, but it's headed by a lady called Eunice Menja. And then there's the Kwitu Uncensored. One of the admins there is Wangeshi Peters. And there's the Power Up Hero by Lisa Wisner. And there's also African Women Empowerment by Catherine Jenga in UK. So these groups and these leaders are women that have set the pace and have set an example for other women. Is it possible that you can take it back to the parliament so that even women in diaspora can have representation? Now, having an example of such great women that have led with an example, that have led other women, that have helped other women, and not just other women that have been in trouble, but pushing other women to greater heights as well. But I think also to such women, for them to be able to reach out to diaspora women, some of this group, they help women that are going through domestic violence, and in most cases we have to do fundraisers, and some of the time the fundraisers become too much, and I'm sorry to say, but people get fatigued with the fundraisers. But if we can have a woman representative in diaspora, maybe the government can also include in the budget so that these women can have access to finances to continue doing what they do. Do you think that is something that you probably could take back to Parliament?
Well, actually, as a matter of fact, we raised the representation of diaspora when the Constitution was being developed in Bomas. At that point, we did not focus on representation from a gender perspective, but it was diaspora in general. And now what's happening is, depending on when we have the next constitutional framework, whether it should be through BBI or any other, it's something that we can take up. As a matter of fact, very recently, there was a recently initiated group, though I don't think it's by diaspora, but it's called, though I see a lot of diaspora people in it as well, called African Leading, I think something. I think. And I actually mentioned it in Parliament. So if can, after this, if you can give me the details of the groups, I could see whether I could bring a motion around those issues and how we can honor the women who work in the diaspora and how we can have their voices heard within the Parliament. There was actually a diaspora representative in Bomas. And we espoused these issues, but unfortunately we did not succeed. We had even a draft of a representative from diaspora, but a lot of the delegates, I don't know why, but people seemed very hostile. I think sometimes people don't understand the work diaspora do. It was even a very uphill task, just getting, the dual citizenship in. There was a lot of opposition to dual citizenship, but we really pushed very strongly for that. And I remember even the one of representation, but we did succeed on that. We can still give it a try. Yeah, so it's something we can give a try.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. We'll take your word for it. So let me read a question from Winnie Swat, and she is in Kenya. And she says, I wanted to ask you if it's possible to ask Madam MP Millie what women leaders are doing to ensure Kenyan women are getting quality and affordable maternity services. This is because of the incident that happened recently outside Pumwani Hospital of a lady giving birth at the gate. Her second question, they do something, she says they do something about ensuring our health workers are paid on time. That is, if you won't mind. So she's just asking those two questions. One about the maternity health and ensuring that healthcare workers are paid on time.
Okay, maybe what I can say, I sit in the budget committee, and in the budget committee we do push budgetary allocation that touch on women, on production of women. We actually even added some money to some hospitals that we ring-fence, especially around this period of coronavirus.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, the challenge we face, especially with health is now devolved, meaning that most of the health facilities are under county government. And because of that, the most that we can do is to push the allocation to the counties. And then after that, our role then just becomes, oversight. And I think Honorable Sabina Chege has been doing quite a good job as the chair of the health committee in following up with some of, and I'm sure that you've seen that. But largely, most of the health, a lot of the health is devolved. But beyond that, what we are also doing, as I indicated earlier, is that we are coming up with a reproductive healthcare bill that seeks to focus on issues that refer to or rather relate to reproduction, especially for women.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking here to see if, there are other questions from women. I see a lot of ladies have logged in. Monicah Kariuki, I can see you. Washu Ndirango, I can see you. Winnie Swat, you're very welcome. There's so many women here. Guys, if you sent me your questions earlier, I think I've asked your questions. And so as we wrap it up, yes, ma'am. Okay, so as we wrap it up, taking the analogy of a farmer, how can we as women seed the ground to ensure a successful harvest where our communities thrive and thrive?
I didn't get you.
Okay, can you hear me? Just fine? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I said, taking the analogy of a farmer, how can we as women seed the ground to ensure a successful harvest where our communities strive and strive?
Okay, I hear you now. I think the way we can do that as women is to mentor. And to mentor basically means that when you think of the farmer and how they operate,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay. It's okay. Just leave it. It's okay. All right. I am so sorry. I think people are telling me that audio is gone. I think we are back. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, I am so sorry. Do you mind to just repeat your last point? They missed it because they were telling me that audio is gone. I am so sorry. Do you want me to repeat the question?
No, I got it. I can repeat it.
Okay, please do.
Yes. I'm sorry about that. What I was saying is that just using the analogy of the farmer, that the farmer will not use the same seed for this season, for the next season.
Yes.
And what we need therefore to do is to keep seeds that we can then reuse.
Yes.
Like how our grandmothers used to keep some maize on the roofs and stuff, and then we reuse them.
Yes.
And that analogy for me shows to mentorship, that we need to mentor younger people. We need to build the capacity of younger people. Because in the country we have not even hit the glass ceiling yet in some areas. We don't yet have a woman attorney general. We've never had a woman attorney general. We've never had a woman inspector general of. We've never had a woman, DCI. We've never had a woman chief justice.
Yes.
We've never had women in all manner of sectors, and so there's still a lot of work to be done. And even in parliament, the women who are in elective positions, single constituencies, are only 23 out of 400 and something. And that therefore means that there's still a lot of work to be done. And for all my parts, I've started an institute called the Millie Institute of Leadership, Law, Innovation and Entrepreneurship, otherwise the Millie Institute,
yes.
Through which we run a leadership academy, where we train young women into leadership and hold hands. There's a young woman that I've been working with as an example. I can give you an example, called Winnie. And when she approached me, she had wanted to be the first woman president of Masinde Muliro University. And so I supported her, and she became the first woman president in a public university in Kenya of Masinde Muliro. She's gotten a job now. She's working in an African program with a 100 million campaign program. Yes. But other than that, what we're doing and trying to do as women leaders is to handhold for younger people through direct training. I've come up with a number of books to help in that regard. I have a book called Unleashing Your Potential for younger women from high school to career level. I have books on younger people at high school level called A to Z on life. I have a book on political leadership called Rig of the Rig Down, and a second one forthcoming. There are basically books that we also use to build capacities of younger people that would want to engage in politics. But I also do a lot of mentorship talks, trainings, and capacity building.
Okay. All right, I do see a question here from Millicent Nyangon, and she was just asking how should she prepare if she wanted to run for MP?
How she should prepare?
Yeah, if she wanted to run for MP.
That would require, what I would encourage, I'll give a very brief response, but I'll encourage her that I'll be launching my book soon. So I'll be encouraging her to be on the lookout when I launch the book. Okay. If she can read books, because it gives you an insight into my first time running as a member of parliament. Okay. It gives you what we call what the law provides when you want to run. But then I also give you insights into what we call real politics. And the real politics here tells you what you will actually face that nobody will tell you about. That is not in any textbook, that is not in any law, that somebody will not tell you that you need to be, when you are going during campaigns, you need to wear trousers because somebody might try and undress you. Yes. That kind of reality, that you need to have security around you because people will try to be violent, that you need sometimes to get do some espionage work and throw people into the enemy camp, so who can then come and give you back information. There's a lot that you need to do, but first of all, I would want to encourage that you keep in a little bit of resources, because unfortunately, Kenyan politics has been so corrupted by money that unless you have some money to move about, it becomes a challenge. But that shouldn't discourage you, because if you want to buy, understand the constituency where you're coming from, understand also about party politics, because party politics plays a very big role. If you come from where I come from and you want to buy on a Jubilee ticket, you are not likely to be elected. Neither are you likely to be elected on an ODM ticket if you buy in Kiambu. So you must be alive to that kind of reality, because I see some very, very strong women coming in and they instead of buying it very correct, choosing the parties carefully, they go for parties that make their work difficult. Not that it is impossible, but it makes your work very, very difficult.
Yes.
There are women who have come against the way, like Honorable Ina Kilimo, who was elected twice against the popular way. But then you have to do a lot of work with the communities. Understand the communities, understand their needs, understand the things that matter to them, but work very closely with women. Again, there's a lot to say if you want to buy, but because of there's only so much space in terms of time, I would encourage that when you get time and we do launch, I'll inform you so that you can alert them of the book, so that anybody who may want to buy. It's
Would you just, when you're launching or once you launch, maybe you can just come back on our forum and you can tell us about your book?
That's fine. Okay. Once I launch, I can come back and tell you about the book.
Okay, awesome. So what I see here is that women are saying, good job for what you're doing. And Washo, she is saying, because you mentioned Sabina, she says, can you let Sabina know that we would like for her to come and talk to us too? So, but I want to appreciate you, Honorable, for having time to come and talk to diaspora women. I think the response that I'm seeing here from all these women is that this has been a great conversation, and I see that women are saying that they have learned a lot from you, and I'm sure we have a long way to go, and I'm sure we still have so much more to learn from you, and this is the first but not the last time that you're going to come back on our forum so we can have more to discuss. Would you agree?
Thank you. It was a pleasure despite the challenge of the weather.
Yes, yes. So I want you, as we close, as you do your closing remarks, talk to a child out there that probably looks at, Honorable Millie Odhiambo and says, I would like to be like her one day, or talk to, a woman out there that doesn't know what they're, what tomorrow holds for them. Just encourage a woman out there, and then we can close.
Well, what I can say to a young person or a woman out there, that the only person that can limit you is yourself. You are the only limiting factor to your success. Believe in yourself, believe in your capabilities, and you can make it. Because if you don't believe in yourself, then it's very difficult to make strides. So believe in yourself, believe in your capabilities. And never try to be like someone else. Just be the best of who you are.
Be your own version. Okay, so again, everybody that is watching, all of you that are listening on the radio, I have been talking to the one and only Honorable Millie Odhiambo. This has been a great conversation, and as you heard, Honorable has said she will come back again. So if you have questions that we didn't answer today, please continue writing your questions there. And everybody, I've seen all you women that had logged in to watch today. I appreciate you so very much. It wouldn't have been a show without you, and of course it wouldn't have been a show without you, Dorothy Ayeta, my producer. So until next time, we will see you next time. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your day, and those of you in Kenya, enjoy your night or have a good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.